of public-private partnerships in curbing the illegal wildlife trade around the world. One of the three main pillars of the 2015 implementation plan was the promotion of partnerships involving government, non-governmental organizations, and the private sector, with specific focus on addressing online wildlife sales, incorporating transport companies into the solution, commitments from tourism industries, and addressing trade in range states. PPPs allow the private sector to bolster government entities through increased funding and manpower, logistical support, and oversight, as well as creating a marketplace of ideas for creative new solutions to the problem. In our research, we covered 5 general areas of PPP involvement, but in the interest of time, I will look specifically at enforcement and monitoring, and demand reduction through public awareness campaigns and education. So an area of critical concern is supply chain enforcement, and it's an area where the public sector is lacking the funding and the manpower to be effective. So I want to draw your attention specifically to e-commerce, which is an area in which PPPs have actually had limited but effective impact on this issue. In 2009, the NGO IFAW, together with publicized a report on eBay as the largest online retailer for ivory in the world with over 4,000 listings. Shortly thereafter, eBay instituted a comprehensive ban of all ivory on its website, legal or illegal. Following suit, Alibaba is now working since last year with Traffic, Alibaba being China's biggest online e-commerce company, to remove all wildlife listings, as well as educating their consumers on the negative impacts of their consumption. So it is important to standardize these regulatory practices across the e-commerce industry. However, there are opportunities to cover the entire supply chain. Since the beginning of this year, Traffic has teamed up with World Customs Organization and other NGOs to look at how to address supply chain disruption, working with freight companies, transport companies, and tourism industries. Already a number of airlines and hotel lines have signed on and pledged their support, but more international cooperation is needed. NGOs are an area of key concern for demand reduction. Already, NGOs such as Wild Aid are pursuing a number of campaigns throughout urban centers in Asia, such as the Say No to Rhino Horn and Ivory campaigns, as well as Wild Aid's I'm Finished with Fins. More culturally targeted campaigns are now gaining in popularity, such as WWF's The Power of Chi, which focuses on Buddhist principles of inner strength instead of overt conservation messaging. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and USAID have also recently joined in the awareness campaign effort. Currently, Fish and Wildlife Service, through its African Elephant Fund and Rhino and Tiger Funds, pledges over $4.5 million, including an additional $8.5 million in leveraged funds towards anti-poaching training and logistics, customs and law enforcement capacity building in range states. However, only 3% of these funds and only 3 of these projects are currently focused on awareness campaigns, so there is much room for growth in this area. So, some of our policy options to address both demand and supply chain issues with wildlife trade. Congress can utilize its power of convening to host hearings with private sector entities on best practices and standard setting across the industry. Additionally, to date there is a lack of comprehensive data on demand globally. Again, convening an interdisciplinary effort to aggregate findings and research and provide open access to this data could aid in this effort. In the realm of public awareness campaigns, A GAO report to assess efficacy of current campaigns is a possibility. Stipulated independent pre- and post-evaluations and demand surveys, research done outside of these NGOs to assess the validity of their campaigns is also a possibility. And data aggregation and open access again, on the effective measures that previous campaigns have shown. Some of the pros of this approach are providing a marketplace of ideas, distribution of costs across the public and the private sector, and shared information systems. Whereas some cons are the possible influence of private interests, a difficulty in managing multilateral and multi-organizational efforts, and inadequate coverage of these campaigns. To wrap it up, I'm going to give it back to Dr. Busby. He will take us out.